Red Faction Guerrilla starts with mining engineer Alec Mason arriving on Mars in 2125. He reports to Parker Sector where he meets his brother Dan. Dan tells Mason that the Air Defense Force is now ruling Mars and they see soldiers breaking into a house. Dan tells Alec that prison camps, tortures, and death squads are like everyday life here at the moment. Earth Defense Force was supposed to be the liberators, but soon they became the occupying force. EDF, under pressure of Earth's corporations to acquire the resources of Mars at any cost at pace to meet Earth's high demands, forces Martian society to work like slaves. When they arrive at Dan's place, a truck shows up and Dan speaks to a blonde girl while a mysterious man is watching from the vehicle. Later, Dan takes Alec to an abandoned research facility where they look for salvage. Turns out it's a good way to make an extra couple of bucks around here. Dan reveals that he is in the Red Faction, fighting against EDF brutality, and they need men like Alec. They get spotted by EDF patrol and they want to arrest Dan, but he tries to escape, so he gets killed. Alec manages to survive, but when he gets back to Dan's place, EDF is already confiscating it. When Alec confronts them, he almost gets killed, but at the last second he gets saved by the Red Faction. After the shootout, whether he likes it or not, Alec becomes a Red Faction renegade. He meets Samania and gets brief about the 6 sectors on the planet that the Red Faction fights to liberate. His first assignment is to destroy the former Red Faction base that was discovered by EDF to cover rebel tracks. After that, it turns out that one of the EDF high-ranked officers is looking to defect to the Red Faction. Samania went to meet him, but this guy Hugo Davis, who, by the way, runs the whole Red Faction, and he was watching like a little pervert when Samania was talking to Don. So this Hugo suspects this might be a trap, so he tells Alec to go there and watch after Samania. Well, turns out Hugo was right, and Alec helps Sam to push back EDF, but Sam expects reinforcements coming soon, so they prepare for the attack, planting a few chargers here and there and preparing an ambush, taking the enemy by surprise when they arrive. Meanwhile, Red Faction is on the move, trying to reach Dust and set a new base. In order for the convoy to pass safely, Mason needs to create a diversion. Hugo asks him to take down the sensor field towers so the convoy won't get detected and tracked. Alec takes down 12 sensors and keeps EDF busy while the convoy drives unnoticed. That way Red Faction reaches Dust. This sector is the main source of income for EDF, so Red Faction really wants to liberate it. At the same time, the miners of Dust are staging a rally at this site. Though the miners were protesting peacefully, EDF under the command of Captain Halvar Gunnarsson arrived and began to suppress the staging. Hugo tells Alec to rescue the miners and kill Gunnarsson. Davis prizes Alec for his actions and tells him that it was important to show workers that the Red Faction is here to fight for them. Soon workers report that EDF has confiscated every walker in the Dust sector. Mason teams up with Jonathan Kepler and breaks into the base, stealing a walker bag. Then, guided by Kepler, he takes it to the truck where he waits. They load walkers and hit the road, but soon they are attacked by EDF and need to defend the vehicle until they reach the bridge and get on the other side right before it gets blown up by Red Faction. Now they are setting new bases in the Badlands sector. Unfortunately, their cache of weapons was discovered by marauders and everything got stolen. Marauders are known as extreme hostile scavengers. Alec is sent to investigate their potential hideout pointed out by the truckers. He spots them using a portal and gets suspicious, as this is quite a fancy technology for a bunch of desert pirates. Mason drives into a portal and finds their base. Turns out truckers were right and the stolen weapons are there. But this is not just an ordinary base, it's an abandoned Ultor facility. Alec overhears a weird transmission on his radio that mentions something about Parker. When he reports that to Hugo, he tells him Parker is dead. Alec also finds a weird device. Soon, he is approached by EDF soldiers. Sam connects and tells Alec to bring the device for an investigation, so he jumps on a vehicle and gets out of there while he still can. Admiral Coble from the EDF fleet connects with General Root, who reports that Red Faction is in possession of the nanoforce and they know it was Alec Mason who recovered it. Admiral orders Root to locate the device and send coordinates. Meanwhile, Mason and Red Faction make smaller diversion around Dust sector to push back EDF and take control, take over smaller bases and supply depots, ambush couriers, and typical guerrilla stuff. That led EDF to windrow the sector, but to cover their retreat, they decided to launch a heavy artillery fire on Dust. Luckily, Red Faction intercepts the transmission and manages to save essential personnel and resources and liberate the sector. But seeing the EDF gunpowder, Mason panics and tells Hugo they have no chance against that. Commander shows him the Marauder device, telling that EDF won't drop bombs on Red Faction as long as they have this. Mason asks what it is, and Samanya tells they are still not sure about that, but it has something to do with nanotechnology. RF progresses to the next sector with their guerrilla actions against EDF. The free fire zone lies between Dust and Eos. Colonel Joseph Boroga is the commander of the artillery base located there. Hugo Davis believes Colonel Joseph Boroga has information that would help the Red Faction cross the free fire zone. Alec Mason meets up with Jonathan Kepler and interrogator Carmen Avila to break into the EDF base and question Boroga. The interrogation results in the death of Boroga and reveals gap in the EDF artillery coverage that allow the Red Faction to cross the free fire zone into Eos. As the tension is rising, Air Defense Force in Oasis fired on a worker rally and killed 58 people. Dozens more are injured. Red Faction decides to send them medical supplies, and Mason is responsible for neutralizing EDF checkpoints on the way for the truck to pass safely and help the survivors. After that, we see Samanya talking to Mason and telling him the device is a nanoforge. She puts it on a rifle, and that baby creates micro machines called nanites. They can disassemble matter molecule by molecule, destroying buildings, vehicles, and any forms of life, including people. This might be a game changer for the Red Faction. She tells Mason she installed a DNA log on the rifle and only 2 of them can use it. Meanwhile, Hugo Davis tasks Alec Mason with destroying a squadron of EDF gunships located in an airfield. Following their destruction, the airspace over the free fire zone is cleared, giving the Red Faction a better chance for a successful assault on the EDF artillery base. Then they target a chemical depot on Oasis. They want to search the computer inside the base and steal access codes from the EDF security network. With Mason blocking the approaching EDF forces and holding them back, Jonathan Kepler is able to gain access to the network and transfer data. Apart from those missions, Mason takes part in side quests like destroying bases, freeing hostages, etc, etc. That leads to taking over the sector step by step until EDF decides to pull out of Oasis. They send in a fleet of tanks to cover their tracks. Mason is sent to stop them from destroying facilities and killing people in the area, and Red Faction manages to liberate it. Hugo uses the data collected from Colonel Broga and creates a path through the free fire zone. Mason follows the route and reaches the EDF artillery base, destroying all 3 cores, powering its guns. Its destruction disables the artillery gun, allowing the Red Factions advanced into the Eos sector. Meanwhile, the EDF has organized a top-secret economic summit. They want to reassure business leaders that the insurgency is under control. Every EDF massacre and atrocity on this planet is done for their benefit. Time for the Red Faction to avenge those innocent casualties. Alec infiltrates the summit and eliminates the influential business leaders. The support for the Red Faction is growing and EDF becomes desperate. They declared an emergency lockdown with orders to shoot anyone on the street. Those residents are cut from food and water, and the enemy wants them to give up all the Red Faction sympathizers in the Eos sector. Mason goes there and eliminates the snipers guarding the residential quarter to show the citizens that RF cares about them. With the recent wave of success, Red Faction is on the verge of driving the enemy off the surface of Mars. Hugo believes it's now or never, and he sends Alec Mason to meet up with the squad and lead the assault on the EDF Central Command. But it turns out EDF, at the same time, attacked the Red Faction headquarters in the Badlands sector. Mason aborts the mission and heads back to help the others defending the base. He meets Samania and together they push the enemy out. But as a result of the surprise attack, Hugo Davis, Carmen Avila and John Kepler were killed. Mason and Samania decide to regroup with the other survivors. She sees a great potential in the nano-weapons and she wants to see the Marauders and ask them for help. Mason tries to tell her those guys are too savage to pack with them, and Samanya reveals she is actually one of them, so he needs to trust her. They actually manage to schedule an appointment with their leader Vasha, who turns out to be Samanya's sister. Then Sam convinces them to give up the technology. A deal is established with Vasha, granting the Red Faction to use their particle accelerator inherited from Alter to be combined with the nanoforge, creating a weapon powerful enough to destroy the Hydra, the big-ass EDF ship on the orbit. As part of the deal, the nanoforge would be returned to the Marauders once the war has ended. With that done, Sam and Alec decide to inform people of Mars that Red Faction is not dead. They take over the emergency broadcast system and send a special message to rise in morale. Soon Vasha and Marauders perform a raid on EDF facility to steal an RM-8 missile for use with their accelerator. Sam plans to arm the missile with nanites and launch it into the orbit to destroy Hydra. Once Vasha informs them that they secure the missile, Alec hacks into the computer at comm center and covers the transport of the missile using artillery. The Red Faction and Marauders are launching an attack on EDF Central Command. It's protected by a force field and only EDF units can get through. But Samanya found a way inside. She has the IFF transporter on the vehicle, so their system won't know the difference. Mason is able to drive it right through the force field. Once inside, Mason destroys EDF Central Command and turns out there's no sign of General Roth. Anyway, Red Faction did it. They beat EDF forces on the planet's surface and now they only need to strike the Hydra with a weapon they prepared. Samanya, ready to put the plan into action, links Alec Mason up to the EDF satellite network to defend the base of the accelerator, allowing the missile to be armed without interference. But EDF sends everything they have left to stop the rebels. Alec covers Sam while she is arming the missile. Soon Vasha connects, informing the Marauders are under attack, but Alec and Sam are too busy to help. And soon Vasha reports that EDF have breached the control tower and they are not able to hold them back. Sam tells Vasha to escape. General Roth informs they have the control tower and asks Alec and Sam to surrender the forge. Sam says that she can launch the missile from here, but it will take time to override the controls. Roth informs that Hydra has entered the orbit and they have the accelerator under control. He threatens that if Sam won't surrender the forge, and though Sam manages to override the controls, EDF closed the door of the launch tube. Mason decides to go to the top of the mountain and get them open. When he reaches the Mount Vogel summit, he meets General Roth there. Roth tells him it's over, but he doesn't want Admiral Cobalt and Hydra to get all the credit, so he wants to kill Mason personally. But Alec actually manages to win the duel with General Roth and open the tube. With no time to lose, Sam launches the missiles. We see Admiral on board Hydra, giving orders to deploy troops on Mars and kill all the Red Faction members. But all of a sudden he receives transmission from Mars and a missile hits the ship. Hydra turns into dust and Mason watches the fireworks in the sky. Sam approaches him and he says they will be back, but they will be ready for them. Then we see people celebrating the victory and Mason narrates how Mars is his new home now. And that's how the game ends. But wait, there also was a DLC released. It explains that at the hands of the Earth Defense Force, the surviving scientists flee deep into the mountain caves and cut off contact with the outside world. But their research continues. After decades of living underground and scavenging for survival, they become savage and turned into the Marauders. The story in Demons of the Badlands takes place while Sam was still part of the Marauders. EDF kidnapped Vasha and planned to publicly execute her, but Samanya manages to rescue her and avoid EDF ambush. In act of vengeance, Vasha decides to assassinate the EDF commander of the Mariner Valley, Captain Sol Marius, and sends Samanya to do the job. Encouraged by the latest success, Vasha has ordered all-out assault on the EDF headquarters. She is intent on whipping out all Outlander presence in the valley, whether it's EDF or not. Sam doesn't feel like killing workers, so she convinces Vasha to let her free the prisoners before the assault. Her sister agrees, but on the other hand she feels kinda betrayed. Samanya rescues colonists Dan Mason and Hugo Davis from the prison camps and headquarters. Then she has a falling out with Vasha and begins her new life as a member of the Red Faction. And that's how the DLC ends.